Hello, ladies and gentlemen. God sees beyond the surface, beyond the image we project to the world. Often in our society, people are quick to judge based on appearances, but God is not interested in what is on the outside. He is deeply focused on the heart, the essence of who you are. For those who may struggle with a narcissistic mindset, it's easy to get caught up in the need to present a perfect facade, always striving for validation, attention, or approval. Yet God knows your true self. He sees beyond the outward bravado, past the carefully constructed mask, and He recognizes the real struggles, fears, and vulnerabilities that lie beneath. The beauty of God's love is that He doesn't judge us based on our outward achievements or how we appear to others. He sees the potential within us, the person He has created us to be. He sees the hopes and dreams in our hearts, the desires for connection, and the need for healing that we may not even recognize in ourselves. He loves us not because of what we do or how we look, but because He has already created us with purpose and value. His love is unconditional, and it transcends the superficial things that we often think define us. When we find ourselves caught in a cycle of self-promotion or looking for external validation, it can feel like we are never enough. But the truth is that God sees beyond our perceived imperfections and sees us as whole. He understands that our flaws are not our identity. They are simply opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation. The more we embrace His love, the more we allow Him to work within us, healing the broken places and helping us understand that we are enough just as we are. His grace reaches into the deepest parts of our hearts, bringing restoration and filling us with the peace that only He can provide. God's perspective is always perfect. Where we may see brokenness or inadequacy, He sees the possibility for great transformation. His love is a powerful force that heals and restores. In times when we feel disconnected from our true selves or overwhelmed by the need to perform for others, we can find solace in knowing that God looks at us with compassion, understanding, and a desire to see us flourish. He doesn't just see our current state, He sees our potential. And with His help, we can rise above the limitations we place on ourselves and walk confidently into the future He has prepared for us. When pride takes hold in the heart, it can cloud our vision and make us believe we are superior to those around us. It convinces us that we are above others, and it isolates us from the relationships that matter most. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly how to humble the proud. His purpose in humbling us is never to punish us, but rather to guide us into a deeper understanding of who we are meant to be. He wants to break down the walls of arrogance and self-sufficiency so that we can experience true humility, a humility that draws us closer to Him and to others. Humbling moments can be uncomfortable, but they are opportunities for transformation. In those moments when life challenges us, when things don't go as planned, or when we are faced with our own limitations, God is gently leading us to a place where we can recognize the needs of others. These are the times when we learn the valuable lesson that life is not about our own achievements or accolades, but about serving others and lifting them up. God, in His grace, allows us to experience the discomfort of humility so that we can see the beauty in selflessness and understand the power of compassion. If you find yourself struggling with pride, feeling superior or disconnected from others, trust that God is working in your life to gently guide you toward a healthier perspective. He doesn't want us to stay trapped in self-centeredness, but to recognize that we are all connected in a greater purpose. The true measure of greatness in God's eyes is not found in how high we elevate ourselves, but in how we serve, love, and humble ourselves to meet the needs of those around us. In His love, God does not condemn us for our pride. Instead, He offers us a chance to grow. He helps us see that through humility, we can experience deeper, more meaningful relationships. Humbling ourselves allows us to connect on a level that pride never can. So if you are feeling humbled in your own life, know that God is using those moments to prepare you for greater things. Humility opens the door to growth, to transformation, and to an abundance of relationships that are based on mutual respect, love, and understanding. God's desire for each of us is never to condemn, but always to restore. No matter how far we've wandered or how deeply we become entrenched in self-centered behaviors, God's heart beats for our restoration. He sees beyond our mistakes, our pride, and our insecurities, and His love compels Him to call us back into alignment with His will. For those who struggle with narcissism or selfish tendencies, God does not stand as an accuser, but as a healer, ready to touch the broken places within us that fuel self-absorption. He understands the deep fears and insecurities that often drive narcissism and seeks to restore us by healing the heart at its core. God's grace is not contingent upon our perfection. His love is unconditional, and it is this grace that has the power to transform us. When we feel lost in our own image, focused only on what we can gain or how we can appear, God's grace offers us the chance to reflect His love and kindness instead. He calls us to be people who live generously, not in pursuit of our own glory, but to shine His light in the world. Through His forgiveness, He doesn't just erase our past mistakes. He gives us a new identity, one that is rooted in love, humility, and grace. God's restorative power is available to each of us, no matter how broken or far we may feel from Him. His desire is to bring us back to who we were truly meant to be, the person He created in His image. In times when we feel overwhelmed by the weight of our own self-focus, God's mercy lifts us up and redirects our hearts. He doesn't condemn us for our past actions, but offers a path forward that leads to healing, growth, and transformation. The love He offers is not just to forgive us, it's to rebuild us, to restore our souls, and to make us whole again. In the process of restoration, God brings us into alignment with His will, showing us how to live with a heart that values others as much as ourselves. He helps us shift our perspective from one of selfish ambition to a life filled with purpose, kindness, and service. No matter where you are in your journey, God is ready and willing to restore you. His arms are always open, ready to receive you, heal you, and guide you toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. Through His grace and love, you can leave behind the chains of narcissism and walk into the freedom and purpose of a life aligned with His will. Narcissism often stems from a deep-seated fear of vulnerability, where we protect ourselves behind walls of pride and self-preservation. In this mindset, we become fixated on our own needs and desires, believing that focusing on ourselves is the only way to ensure our safety and success. However, God teaches us that the essence of life is not about protecting our own image or gaining recognition, but about loving others. God's love invites us to step out of our comfort zones, to release the fear that holds us back, and to begin embracing the power of vulnerability. True strength comes from being willing to open our hearts to others, to show love without expecting anything in return. God calls us to walk in humility, considering the needs of others above our own. This may seem counterintuitive, especially for those who have become accustomed to prioritizing themselves, but God shows us that this selflessness is where true fulfillment lies. It is when we stop living solely for ourselves and begin focusing on the well-being of others that we find real joy, peace, and connection. God challenges us to be compassionate, to recognize the struggles of those around us, and to offer kindness and support even when it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. Love, as God defines it, is not a transaction, but a genuine act of giving without expecting anything in return. For those who battle with narcissistic tendencies, God's love offers a profound transformation. In 2025, God is calling us to see beyond our own desires and to shift our focus outward, understanding that love is not about what we can get, but about what we can give. God wants us to build relationships based on mutual respect, care, and understanding. This kind of love isn't driven by self-interest, but by the desire to see others flourish. It's in this love that we begin to build stronger, more meaningful connections that bring purpose and fulfillment into our lives. As we grow in this love, God shows us how to overcome the barriers of self-centeredness and begin to build lasting relationships. In this new year, God wants us to break free from the cycle of self-focus and to embrace the beauty of loving others as He loves us unconditionally, selflessly, and with great compassion. When we allow God's love to transform our hearts, we begin to see the world through a different lens. We no longer view people as objects to be used, but as fellow human beings worthy of care, respect, and affection. This shift is not only healing for our own hearts, but it also lays the foundation for stronger, more fulfilling relationships in every area of our lives. God, in His grace, often provides moments of stillness and quiet for those who struggle with narcissism. In the midst of our busy lives, where our focus tends to be on achieving personal success or gaining attention, God creates opportunities for reflection. These moments allow us to step back and evaluate our actions, our attitudes, and the relationships that we hold dear. Rather than moving through life at a fast pace, God encourages us to slow down, to pause, and to take a deeper look at how we are engaging with the world around us. These moments of introspection are not meant to condemn us, but to guide us into greater self-awareness. In these reflective times, God gently encourages us to examine how our behavior impacts others. Narcissism often blinds us to the feelings and needs of those around us, but in moments of quiet, God brings clarity. We begin to see how our words, actions, and attitudes may hurt or alienate others. He opens our eyes to the truth that the way we treat others is not just a reflection of our personality, but also a reflection of our heart. Through these moments, God gives us the chance to realign our hearts with His values, to replace self-centeredness with love, compassion, and empathy. This process allows us to grow into people who reflect Christ's character in our relationships and interactions. Reflection is a gift from God, one that offers us the opportunity to learn and grow. It is in these moments that we begin to understand more deeply who we are and who God is calling us to be. Reflection helps us to see the areas in our lives where we need transformation and growth. It enables us to move beyond our old ways of thinking and acting and to step into the fullness of who God created us to be. Every time we reflect, we become more attuned to His voice and more willing to make the changes necessary to become more Christ-like. The power of reflection lies in its ability to open our hearts to the work that God wants to do in us. These quiet moments help us release old patterns of behavior that hinder our growth, and they create space for God to speak truth into our lives. As we reflect on our actions and attitudes, we are given the opportunity to choose a different path, one that aligns with God's will and reflects His love. This process of reflection is not just about identifying what is wrong, but also about discovering what is right and allowing God to shape our hearts so that we can better serve Him and others. There are times in life when the most loving thing God can do is protect us from ourselves. Often we are blind to the harmful behaviors we engage in, especially when those behaviors are rooted in narcissism. Narcissism can lead us down paths of self-destructive choices, creating hurtful words and actions that damage our relationships and cause us emotional pain. In these moments, God's love is not always about keeping us from hardship, but about shielding us from the very choices and actions that would ultimately lead to our downfall. His protection is not only about physical safety, it extends to the safeguarding of our hearts and minds. God, in His mercy, knows that sometimes our own selfish tendencies can hinder our personal growth and happiness. He sees the patterns in our behavior that we may not even be aware of, and in His wisdom, He knows exactly how to protect us from those patterns. His protection often comes in the form of redirection. He will use circumstances, people, and even moments of discomfort to steer us away from harmful behaviors and toward a path of healing and restoration. While it may be difficult to understand at times, God's interventions are always acts of love designed to preserve our well-being, to guide us to a better place, and to help us grow into the people we were created to be. It is in these moments of redirection that we are invited to reflect on our choices and to see beyond the immediate gratification that narcissism might offer. God allows us to experience times of correction not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for transformation. His goal is to restore us to a place of humility and openness where we can receive His love and learn how to love others in return. Sometimes the correction He brings can be uncomfortable, but it's through this process that we can experience true peace, fulfillment, and connection with others. God's protection is a gift that leads us to a better, more abundant life. He understands the consequences of living selfishly and is constantly working behind the scenes to prevent us from making choices that will ultimately keep us from the fullness of life He has in store for us. By protecting us from ourselves, He allows us to experience His grace and to walk in a way that leads to healing, peace, and meaningful relationships. God's love, in its wisdom and care, redirects our hearts and guides us toward a life that is truly fulfilling and in alignment with His perfect will. God, in His wisdom and love, encourages accountability in our lives, especially for those who struggle with narcissistic tendencies. He understands that it can be easy for us to get lost in our own self-centered world, where we become blind to the ways our actions may harm others or stray from His purpose. But God, in His kindness, doesn't leave us to wander alone. He places people in our lives, trusted friends, mentors, or even family who can speak the truth to us with love. These individuals are not there to condemn, but to gently challenge us, helping us see where we may have gone astray. It's through these relationships that we are reminded that we are not meant to live in isolation or denial. Living in community is a vital part of God's plan for our growth. He doesn't want us to carry the burden of self-absorption alone. Instead, He calls us to walk alongside others who can support, encourage, and hold us accountable. Accountability isn't about punishment, it's about loving correction that leads us toward positive change. It's a reflection of God's grace, helping us to stay aligned with His purpose and to grow in ways that make us more like Him. When we have people in our lives who hold us accountable, we are reminded of our true worth not based on our image or achievements, but on the love and identity God has given us. Through accountability, God shows us how to live with greater humility and grace. It's in the moments where we allow others to speak into our lives that we learn to let go of our pride and embrace a heart of humility. Accountability challenges us to take a hard look at ourselves, to examine our motives, and to recognize areas in our lives where we need growth. It's not always easy, but it's essential for our transformation. These moments help us break free from the cycle of narcissism by teaching us that our value is not in how we are seen by others, but in the way we reflect God's love to the world. When we embrace accountability, we open ourselves to the fullness of God's plan for us. We allow His love to flow through others as they help guide us back to Him when we stray. Accountability helps us stay grounded in truth and reminds us that we are not meant to walk this journey alone. It encourages us to become the people God has called us to be, people who live with integrity, humility, and grace, always growing and reflecting His love in the world around us. Through this process, we can move closer to living in a way that honors God and benefits those around us. The ultimate and most powerful thing that God offers to those who struggle with narcissism is His unconditional love. No matter how deep the pride, insecurity, or self-centeredness may run, God's love is always available, ready to transform and heal. His love does not depend on our perfection or our ability to get everything right. It is based on His infinite grace. This is the beautiful truth of God's love. It is not contingent upon our performance, but upon His unchanging nature. In 2025, God is calling us all to experience this love more deeply and allow it to heal the wounds where narcissism has taken root. Through His unconditional love, God provides the power to change. Narcissism often comes from places of deep insecurity or fear, and it can make us feel as though we need to focus only on ourselves to feel secure. But God's love teaches us to shift our focus, not just on our own desires, but on the needs of others. His love empowers us to step outside of ourselves and begin to live with a heart of generosity, compassion, and humility. When we accept this love, we are no longer bound by self-centeredness. We are free to reflect God's goodness and care for those around us. In moments when we feel unworthy or too lost to be loved, God's love steps in, offering healing and restoration. His love doesn't shame us or condemn us. Instead, it offers us the power to be restored and made whole. Narcissism may have shaped our identity in unhealthy ways, but God's love brings transformation, helping us become more of who He created us to be. It restores the broken parts of our hearts, replacing pride with humility, fear with confidence in His goodness, and isolation with connection to others. His love reshapes our lives in a way that reflects His character. As we allow God's unconditional love to work in us, we begin to change. This love becomes the foundation of our healing and the starting point for a new way of living. We stop focusing on ourselves and start seeing the world through God's eyes with compassion and care for others. God's love has the power to restore what has been lost, heal what is broken, and transform us into the people He has always intended us to be. It is in receiving His love that we can let go of narcissism and embrace a life of true fulfillment and purpose, walking in alignment with God's heart and sharing His love with the world. Thanks for watching.